Some memories are meant to stay buried. For 60-year-old Tom, a simple afternoon of cleaning becomes a descent into a forgotten nightmare when he stumbles upon an old family photo one that shouldn't exist. At first glance, it's just another happy moment. His daughter's birthday, loved ones gathered under the summer sun. But when he looks closer, he sees the impossible. A ghostly hand resting on his child's shoulder, a presence no one remembers. What follows is a chilling unraveling of long-buried secrets, a sinister force that has been watching for decades, and a desperate race to sever a bond that was never meant to be broken. Because some shadows don't fade, they grow stronger when you turn your back. Let us know where you are watching from and what time you found this video. There was one project that Tom, who was 60 years old at the time, had been putting off for years. Cleaning out the attic. On a peaceful day, Tom made the decision to do it. A box of childhood toys that smelled slightly of mildew was among the forgotten relics of his past that he was sorting through. Yellowed newspapers, his old college textbooks, and a box of toys that smelled faintly of mildew were among the items that he was picking through. Then, he discovered it buried behind a pile of old letters. It was a picture book encased in leather, with the cover suffering from the effects of aging. The dust was blown off, and he opened it open, his curiosity having been piqued. Moments that had been trapped in time, each one a thread in the tapestry of his family's history, were included inside the photographs. These photographs included birthdays, holidays, and languid summer afternoons. While he was flipping through the pages, he saw a specific image that drew his attention. It was a group photograph that was shot in their garden during the 10th birthday celebration that his daughter Emily was celebrating. Under the dappled shade of the ancient oak tree, his whole family was there, including his late wife, his parents, and his brothers. They were all placed in an orderly manner on the lawn by the time they arrived. It was a cozy and well-known surroundings. Then, however, his eyes caught sight of something that was not quite right. His daughter Emily was seated in a cross-legged position on the far left side of the picture, her smile being bright and cheerful. In addition, there was a pale and thin hand that was seen resting softly on her shoulder. Tom had a shortness of breath. He strained his eyes, drawing the image in closer. There was no mistaking the hand. The fingers were curled ever so slightly, as if they were in a delicate possessive hold. There was, however, no arm that was linked to it. There is no one standing next to Emily. That wouldn't be feasible. As he counted the members of his family in the photograph, his heart was racing. Including himself, his wife, his two brothers, and Emily, his parents, and his wife. 7 individuals. It was the hand that formed 8, however. He searched his mind in an attempt to recollect the day in question. Did there happen to be a visitor? Who might it be? A neighbor? Not at all. Rather, it had been a modest and personal get-together. The only family. And during all of the years that he had possessed this CD, he had never previously seen the additional handwriting. There was a chilly tingle that ran up his spine. With his hand shaking, he reached for his phone and phoned Emily's number over the phone. She responded on the 3rd ring, her tone of voice upbeat and upbeat. "Come on, Dad. What's going on?" He said, while attempting to maintain his composure. "While I was searching through some old photographs, I came upon a picture that was taken during your 10th birthday celebration. Do you recall whether there were any other people there besides the family?" There was a pause. Next, a reluctant chuckle was heard. No. We were the only ones, I believe." "To what end?" Tom took a gulp. "If you look closely, you may see a hand resting on your shoulder in the photo. However, there is no one standing to your right." There is no sound. Shortly after that, Emily's voice became hardly audible. "Dad, I remember that hand." It seemed as if Tom's blood had frozen. "What?" "I remember that when I was a child, I would wake up in the middle of the night because I would feel someone stroking my shoulder. Simply, putting their hand there to rest. I dismissed it as a figment of my mind. Therefore, I never disclosed it to anybody. She trembled as she breathed. "You're telling me it was real?" Tom became more firm in his hold on the phone. When he looked again at the photograph, he observed something different from what he had seen before. A person's face could be seen in the backdrop, just barely discernible through the woods. Faint and hazy, but undeniably there in the image, looking over, and it was sporting a grin. As Tom continued to look at the human face in the image, his hands began to shake. As he continued to stare, more and more features were apparent. He had sunken eyes, a grin that was too broad, and a body that seemed to be just out of focus, as if the camera itself had fought to catch everything in the correct manner. "Emily," he added in a low voice, "I believe that we ought to have a conversation about this in person." Emily arrived at Tom's place that evening with a pale face while she was there. As soon as she stepped inside, she quickly pulled out her phone and began talking on it. "I dug through my old stuff when we hung up," she stated as she scrolled through her photos before continuing. "Look at this." On the occasion of her birthday, she presented him with a photograph, which was a self-portrait that she had taken in her childhood bedroom. A person that seemed to be in the shadows stood in the backdrop, just behind her image in the mirror. Quite tall, very thin. It extended its fingers in the direction of her shoulder. A knot formed in Tom's gut. "Why didn't you tell me?" Emily picked at her lip. "Since I believed that I was imagining things," she said. And then it came to an end. There was a profound hush that descended over them. Tom heaved a harsh expelling. "We need to find out who or what this is." They paid a visit to Margaret, Tom's elderly aunt, the next morning. Margaret was the only surviving relative who was old enough to recall the history of the family in great detail. When Tom showed her the picture of her birthday, her hands, which were wrinkled, began to shake. She hushed. "Oh, Tom," as she spoke. "I'd hoped you'd never see this." Margaret disclosed the truth that had been kept hidden for many years. The home that they had been living in had not always been theirs. Up until the time when Tom's family moved there, the house was occupied by a reclusive individual by the name of Elias Verd, who was reputed to have been involved in the occult. He had disappeared without a trace, yet there were others who said that he had stayed behind in ways that no one could comprehend. The hand in the photo, the figure in the mirror. Margaret's voice became deafening. It is said that Elias had the ability to form attachments with other individuals, similar to a shadow. Plus, he had a soft spot for kids. Emily couldn't catch her breath. "You mean he was with me all those years?" A gloomy nod was given by Margaret. He squeezed his hands tightly. "How do we stop it?" Margaret was taken aback. "When it comes to one thing, the concept of being remembered was something that Elias was preoccupied with. It is possible that he will lose his hold on us if we burn every photograph and every evidence of him." On that particular evening, Tom and Emily worked together to collect every family album, every stray photo, and even old home films. They started a fire in the backyard, under the same oak tree that was in the picture taken on the previous birthday. As the flames burned the pictures, the temperature of the air dropped to an unbearable level. The sound of the wind howling was almost like hearing a voice. Suddenly, Emily let out a gasp right as the final photograph was reduced to ash. It was a quick burning ache that she felt in her shoulder. On the other hand, when she looked, she found nothing. There is no mark, not a hand. There is just quiet. In the morning of the next day, Tom and Emily examined each and every mirror and shadow. None of it. However, while they sat in the kitchen, feeling relieved, the ancient radio that was located in the corner began to crackle and play a song that Emily had heard when she was younger. A tune that she had listened to in her room late at night when she believed that she was alone herself. And in the reflection of the window, for a split second, there was a hand that was pressing against the glass. There is a knocking sound.